What's up, Primal Athletics members? Today we are bringing a topic that I think is relevant to everybody's lives right now, especially as we're going into the winter. Today we're going to talk about immune system, specifically how we might be able to boost and strengthen the immune system and different ways that our lifestyle affects our immune system. So we're going to kind of break it down through a couple of subjects. We have sleep, nutrition, exercise, and then some other variables that we'll get into later on the episode. So Coach Eric's going to start you off with sleep and how sleep affects our immune system and our ability to fight off sickness.
So I think one of the biggest, if not the biggest, influence of your immune system is sleep. So that's when our body kind of recovers, regulates hormones, and there's a lot of stuff that happens while you're sleeping that is directly tied to your immune system, and also your repairs for the strain or the workouts or whatever your body kind of came into contact with that day. That's when your body kind of like repairs and fights off stuff. So getting at least like 7 hours of sleep a night is hugely important. And during the winter in our area, it gets dark early, so it's kind of almost natural where you want to sleep a little bit more during the winter. So so I think that's kind of one of the biggest, if not the biggest, influences on your immune system. And it also ties into brain function and your performance in the gym. So it's one of those things where, you do it for your immune system, but it's also going to benefit in a lot of other areas.
Yeah, I find like even one night of poor sleep, this is just speaking from my experience, one night of poor sleep, I can feel, thankfully this year I haven't had really any, cold or anything like that. I've been really on top of my immune system, but in the past, I have one bad night of sleep and I'll wake up and like instantly like some sniffles or just feeling low energy, feeling like something's coming on. So I can definitely attest to that being, if you're not consistent with the quality of the sleep and having a good quantity of sleep, 7 or more hours a night, it's almost like an overnight change in your body where, you don't get that boost.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say I don't know the exact numbers, but there's like a pretty well-known study about a group where they deprived them of sleep, and after I want to say it was like a week to 2 weeks, they were like a good amount of them were pre-diabetic. So it has a huge role.
So fun fact, I don't think I've told you guys this before. Like 6 or 7 years ago, I actually participated in a sleep study where they kept me up for hours on end for days at a time. And it was part of that. I can find the actual study itself that came out and link it to the show notes here, but they were studying biomarkers for diabetes. So they would feed you certain foods, and some days you would get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Some nights you'd go to bed, they wake you up in an hour and keep you up for 5 hours straight. Some nights you'd be woken up every 20 minutes. And they really just mess with you, and it sucked. But it was the same thing you were talking about there, trying to see the biomarkers, and they were able to find that proper sleep brought down those biomarkers. You're more likely to not be pre-diabetic or develop diabetes, and the more messed up your sleep schedule was, you were very highly likely to get diabetes or at least be pre-diabetic pretty quickly. So I'll find that exact study. It was done in Boston, and I can link that. But it brings back horror stories of staying up all night in that study, being attached to a million machines.
That's funny. You were a part of that. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's actually it's pretty cool. There was a time where I would do a lot of studies, that kind of stuff, because I found it interesting myself. And the paycheck they gave you was pretty nice too. But that sleep one was definitely something I'll never forget. Um, but definitely just so important. I always, when I think about sleep, I read a book a few years ago that I've mentioned a few times on this podcast called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. And one of the quotes that always rings out in my ears is he says, the number one legal performance enhancing drug for not only any athlete, but any human being is just proper sleep. If you're someone who only sleeps like 4 to 6 hours a night, getting that 7 to 9, you're going to feel like a completely different person. I'm sure everyone can relate to that when they have a bad night's sleep versus a good night's sleep. I know myself, I'm notorious ever since I was a little kid. If I was up late studying or just had practice late and like was studying late, or whoever it was, I was just overworking myself. I would get sick right away. And same thing to this day. If I'm not taking care of myself and not sleeping properly, staying up late, getting up early, and just overworking myself, I can within a few days I know I'm gonna get sick doing that. So sleep is so important for our immune system to keep us healthy. And it's one of the and it's one of the things like that's I wouldn't say it's simple to control. Obviously, there's a lot of factors out there. You got young kids at home that are waking you up. Your work schedule, if you work shift work, like there's definitely variables that make it tough. But it's something that we are all able to work on, whether it's developing a better sleep routine, turning the TV off an hour before bedtime, not watching TV until you fall asleep, not looking at your phone before you fall asleep, trying to make your room as dark as you can, all those simple little things we can do on a daily basis to slowly make our sleep routine better.
For sure. It's kind of like the cornerstone of a healthy lifestyle. I feel like if you kind of start with that and really structure your sleep and making sure you get good quality of sleep, then you can build from that one pillar, and that takes care of a lot of your ailments.
Mm-hmm. And one more thing I want to bring up just to kind of highlight how important sleep actually is. Like you hear people say like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'm just going to work my butt off and I'll sleep when I'm retired. And that it's true that there's a very small percentage of people who can get by on a few hours of sleep a day. That's a minuscule amount of people. Most people need more sleep. And even if you think you're someone who can get by, I'm willing to bet you'd probably feel a lot better with good sleep. But something else from that book, Why We Sleep by Matt Walker, there was a study that he talks about um, in regards to daylight savings time and heart attacks and its direct correlation. And I believe it was between like 2010 and 2013-ish, they took this data. And the Monday after the 1 hour time adjustment where we lose an hour of sleep, heart attacks in hospitals nationwide went up by 24%. And then conversely, when we gain an hour of sleep, there's a 21% reduction in heart attacks the following week in hospitals nationwide. So that alone shows you just how strong proper sleep is. Losing 1 hour for some people, obviously I'm willing to bet these people are probably very unhealthy and other reasons as well. But losing that 1 hour of sleep directly correlates to almost a 25% increase in heart attacks nationwide, which I found was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty significant. On top of our sleep patterns and our our connection with sleep, something that also greatly impacts our immune system and the way it functions is what we put in our bodies. So nutrition and hydration, and on the same level of importance when it comes to our health and well-being.
Yeah, I mean, even so, yeah, I mean, what I've found is, the CrossFit model of eating meats, vegetables, seeds, and nuts, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. It's like can be applied everywhere. So like if you're looking for performance, like that's the route to go. If you're looking for helping your immune system, that's the route to go. So it's funny how like that kind of simple prescription can just apply to everything, just because it's simple, effective, and it works kind of across the board, So, but yeah, so nutrition, like there's the vegetable piece, like sticking to whole foods, eating a lot of vegetables. I think that's a key component of your immune system. For the vitamins and minerals that you get, but also with those kind of whole foods, it affects your gut in a certain way. And like gut health has been like over the last few years, they've proven over and over again that your gut is kind of a big influence on your immune system. So getting those fibers and those kind of whole foods, no sugars, that makes a big difference.
Mm.
Yeah, sugar is one of the big ones. I mean, in the CrossFit realm, we always preach no sugar, but to the average, especially the average American, it's super common in a lot of foods that we eat. And sugar has been shown in multiple studies that, even a small amount of refined sugar automatically reduces your immune system, or it affects your immune system in a negative way where it's suppressed, because it's not a natural thing to have that bump in in blood sugar when we're eating something that's super high in a refined sugar.
Yeah, me personally, whenever I eat sugar, I instantly get almost like a body like chill or ache kind of thing. Especially if I have a lot of it, it's like, within like an hour or so, I feel the effects of it. And so, just my own like personal, just from cutting it out almost completely. Whenever I add it back in, I can really tell a difference.
Yeah, along the probiotics and prebiotics to that point too. Obviously, you can supplement with it. Trying to get it from whole foods is always a great source. Your bananas, your yogurt, sauerkraut, even apples, onions, kombucha, anything that's fermented, all those are going to be ripe with pre and probiotics that will help that gut health. On top of cutting back on sugar too, that kind of 1-2 punch of supplementing it with whole foods or a supplement if you need to, and cutting out the sugar will really make a drastic change in your gut health.
Right. And I think something to be said about, in terms of eating whole foods, you get a pretty wide profile of micronutrients. So getting all your vitamins and minerals, which are essential in keeping your immune system strong. And for those of us who maybe have a certain diet or a limited diet where we're, staying away from whole food groups, like we're not eating any meat or we're not eating any fish or this or that, just be sure that you are finding some way to get all of those key vitamins and minerals, even if it's in supplement form, so that you can keep your body functioning optimally, especially vitamin D3, which has been a really big one in lieu of the COVID pandemic. And I know me and Zach have spoken about this before, but the amount of people who are shown to be deficient in vitamin D and how that correlated to their likelihood to get sick, and specifically with COVID-19. And I think if you're somebody who's not outdoors a lot, or even if you are, it's never a bad idea to supplement some extra vitamin D, given the wealth of, study and info that we now have on it.
Yeah, and in regards to the vitamin D, it's super important for just helping protect against those respiratory tract infections, which is why they're seeing more people who are very low in vitamin D have worse outcomes with COVID-19. And as those New Englanders kind of bunker down for the winter and we're inside a lot more and it's getting darker quicker, we're not going to be getting it from natural sources like the sun too. So you can supplement it with liquid or pill form. I would definitely recommend with any of these supplements too, talking to your doctor first, because you can take too much of something. You might not be deficient in it. You might be deficient in it. Getting a test done first and foremost, seeing what vitamins and nutrients you are deficient in is a great way for us to start to see where you can start getting more out of your immune system and your diet.
Yeah, even just there was a study I referenced in the blog where there's like vitamin D. They did a case study with I think over 1,000 people, and those that were taking vitamin D and had good vitamin D levels in their blood were 30% less likely to get sick with either the common cold or anything. So, and that, everyone talks about vitamin C, but that was more like a 4 to 10% difference. So vitamin D is actually kind of a bigger influence, I think, over especially when it comes to like the common cold and respiratory stuff, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, a few other things to focus on too. Obviously, we want to work on a well-balanced diet, but if we're going to focus on a few things, I'd say there's probably 5 big ones that are going to help us with our immune system. One being protein. Protein is the building block of our antibodies, and people who are protein deficient are definitely more susceptible to infectious disease. We see when we work with nutrition clients, a lot of people don't eat enough protein per day, not only for their goals in the gym to build muscle and gain strength, but just they just don't eat enough protein in general, and this has more of an effect than just building strength in the gym too. Like I said, you'd be more susceptible to infectious disease. So aiming for a serving of protein with every meal or snack is a great way to start getting more into our diet. Trying to look at what you eat on a daily basis and where you can fit more in. If every day you eat for breakfast just some pancakes or waffles or cereal, a very carbohydrate heavy breakfast and no protein, then start there. Add some eggs or egg whites, add some breakfast sausage, some bacon, and it doesn't even have to be your typical breakfast foods either. Have some chicken and rice or whatever it is. Try to add a little protein to your breakfast or wherever you feel like you can fit some more in. So protein's a big one. Definitely vitamin C as well. Vitamin C is needed to prevent and fight off infections. Whole foods are your best sources. Your citrus fruits, your lemons, your oranges, but even like red peppers, broccoli, super high in vitamin C. Aim for like 1 or 2 servings of those type of foods per day. Vitamin D, again, like we just talked about, definitely good for respiratory tract infections. Zinc's a huge one. Helps support T cells, which are an essential part of the immune system as well. They're a type of white blood cell. So whole food sources are the best, like whole grains, scallops, oysters. A lot of seafood is high in zinc, but you could also supplement in pill form as well. And then finally, your omega-3 fatty acids. These are going to help reduce inflammation and help those white blood cells do their job. So eat sources of omega-3s daily. You get it from like chia seeds, walnuts, flax seeds. You can get oily fish, your salmon. You could also take them in supplement form as well if you don't eat fish. And aiming for, if you're going to eat fish, maybe like 2 to 3 times a week at most. Maybe don't eat it every single day, but you could definitely supplement with it every day in supplement form.
I tend to eat a lot of pumpkin seeds for zinc. Like I always mix in
That's a good
my
one.
oatmeal in the morning, some berries, usually blueberries, pumpkin seeds, and walnuts. So I get a little bit of zinc, some omega-3s, and a lot of different vitamins from the berries.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, a nice little pack of nutrition first thing in the morning.
Yeah, and if we're talking like the big 5 there for fighting off infections and infectious diseases and just immunity in general, the protein, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, and those omega-3 fatty acids. But again, talk to your doctor first, get tested, see if you are deficient in any of those areas.
Yeah, and it's funny how those are very tied to our like recovery and performance in the gym. And that's just because our immune system is also what repairs muscles, and like our recovery from workouts is very tied into our immune system. So those people that are really good at recovering also happen to have the really strong immune systems. And so that's the reason why you see so many commonalities between like immune function and recovery, whether it's supplements, sleep, nutrition, all that stuff.
I mean, that ties right into, in the CrossFit methodology, at least, at the level 1 course, they teach you about the sick fit continuum, right? So on one end of the line, you have sickness, and on the other end, you have fitness. So we call fitness a hedge against sickness. And the further away you are from sickness, the fitter you are, and vice versa. So it makes sense in terms of if you have a fitter body and you're in better shape and your immune system's stronger, then you're further from sickness or the possibility of sickness. And I think that's true for a lot of athletes. Is you'll find they don't get sick very often, and when they do, they're super resilient because they have these strong immune systems built up from this good stress that is placed on their body.
Yeah, and that's been one of the frustrating things for me to see during this whole pandemic is like we knew that relatively quickly, almost from the start, that those with strong immune systems, the fitter you are, the better your chances against this. But you don't hear about, ways to improve your fitness or ways to improve your immune system. And obviously there are people that have, kind of special circumstances where they might have, autoimmune things, or, they're in a situation where exercise and diet isn't going to help them. But for the majority of us, that's our number one goal, or that's kind of the number one thing you can do personally, is to just improve your health, your fitness, and your immune system. And it's one of those things where it's like you do it to battle COVID, or you do it for whatever reason, and it's like this armor that's you can apply and use as a defense for everywhere else. So it's not like, you get super fit and then COVID passes and you're like, man, I got these abs and I'm super fit for nothing, like no one would complain about that, so it's like it's one of those things, you might as well do it, because it gives you kind of this hedge of protection against a lot of things that are thrown your way. So
100%. And I've always recently especially become a fan of the mentality that you can't necessarily make the world safer, but you can make yourself stronger. So, a lot of these variables are out of your control. What happens in the world and with the, the virus and all those things are kind of things that you don't necessarily have a grip on, but what you do have a grip on is your own personal fitness and your own personal well-being. Choosing to go to sleep early, choosing to eat the right foods, choosing to exercise regularly. These are things that are under your control. And if you're not controlling those things, then maybe it's time to take a look in the mirror and see what decisions you can take upon yourself that will make you, stronger and give you a little bubble of safety that you're building on your own. Because as I said, you can't necessarily control those other variables.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, because it's a good segue into talking about just stress reduction in general, which is going to be huge for your immune function. The less stressed out we are, the less stress we're putting on our body physically, and the better we can recover. With that being said, it's definitely unrealistic to think we can completely eliminate stress in our life. It's going to come up, but how we react to things can definitely have a direct impact on how much it weighs us down. And something I do with most of my nutrition clients is something called the sphere of control. It's an exercise we do together, where we draw a big circle, and at the center is the person, and things that are closest to the center are things they're in total control over. Things that are a little further away, they have some control over, and then things that are on the outside of the circle, they have absolutely no control over. And kind of putting those things down and putting it on paper can help us realize maybe where we're wasting some energy with stress that we can kind of eliminate easily to make our lives a little easier. So for example, like your total control could be your mindset, your priorities, your actions on a daily basis, and the effort you give on a daily basis. Those are things you can control and only you can control. Some things that might be in the some control category are like your schedule. Maybe you have a pretty set schedule, but it changes here and there based on work or kids or whatever it may be. Your health routine, again, same thing. Things can come up in your schedule and kind of throw you off your health routine here and there. Your home environment, especially if you have a big household, those are all things that you have some control over, maybe not complete. And then the things that are in the no control and the way outside of the circle there are like the politics and the world events, what's going on in the news, what's on Facebook, other people's thoughts and other people's actions. And the sooner we can accept that we don't have control over that and what we can control, the less stress we're going to be, and the better we're going to recover, the healthier we're going to be, and just the better we're going to feel overall. It's really going to help us prioritize our immunity and our sanity overall.
For sure.
Yeah.
And just to add a little dichotomy to the stress idea, when we talk about exercise being a good stress, right, it is like a self-imposed stress on your body, but it's hopefully at dosages that allow your body to recover from and come back stronger. Hence, the whole model of fitness, right, giving a dose of, in the CrossFit world, of intensity or volume, and having it be at a level where your body is challenged but not wrecked, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you come back stronger, you recover, you get your sleep, your nutrition. And there are those good, those good avenues of stress. But I can definitely see where Zach's pointing out, if you're always thinking about things that are negative, or if you're always in this anxious state, don't think for a second that's not going to affect your immune system and affect how your body's functioning, because there is such a connection between your thoughts and your physiological function.
Definitely. I think that one of the easiest things you can do, again, is just look at your lifestyle and how much time are you spending on social media, getting caught up in things. How much time are you watching the news, getting caught up in things? And I'm not, again, we talked about this before. I'm not saying don't be up to date on the world's current affairs, but understand that there some stuff might not be in your control completely. There's things we can control maybe a little bit amount of, but just try to eliminate some of the stuff that's just unneeded. If you're spending 4 hours a day looking at Facebook, looking at arguments people are getting into, and just firing yourself up, I mean, that's not doing anything good for your immune system, not doing anything good for your mindset, your stress. That's something we can easily just get rid of. I mean, delete it from your phone. We've instituted a zero social media policy in my household the last few weeks, and it's been pretty good.
Nice. Yeah, and even so, those things, I like the fact that you have kind of a this kind of medium range of things that are kind of in your control. And I think like your work stress is a part of that. So like so I think a lot of people give too much like value or too much power to their jobs. I think prioritizing your work has been shown over and over that it's not going to lead to a very healthy, happy lifestyle. And I think like we see a lot of people come in and they cancel their membership or whatever because they can't, they don't have time through work or whatever. And it's just like, that's kind of, it's frustrating to see because I don't know. I mean, I think people should prioritize like an hour in the gym and sleeping 7 hours, that, and if a boss or a company can't see that, then it's I don't know. I think it's a time to kind of look at if changes need to be made, and like I think a lot of situations, if you went up to your boss and were like, hey, listen, I appreciate this job and I want to do good at it, but getting an hour of me time, taking care of myself so that I can perform at this job at a high level is important to me. Like most good managers or bosses should be able to see the value in that, so I think even work where it might not seem like it's in your control, having the confidence to like have conversations like that, you might be surprised what you're able to accomplish.
Definitely. And it goes back to too, if you don't have total control over your work, look at the things you do have control over and how can you kind of change your schedule a little bit. I always tell people almost nothing is a complete surprise in our daily lives, right? Obviously, if you wake up one day, you're going to work and your car breaks down, like that's a surprise. I'm not talking about that, but for the most part, like what your schedule is. You know what time you need to be at work every day. Even if you work kind of a mixed schedule, at least a week in advance, hopefully at most jobs, what time you need to be at work. So if every single day you're getting up and you say you're in school and you're missing the bus or you're getting stuck in crazy traffic every day, you can't control that traffic, but you can control, maybe you leave 10-15 minutes earlier that day to try to avoid that traffic. If you know it's there every day and you can't control that, what can you control? Can we leave earlier? Can you leave maybe a little later to avoid it? Don't put yourself in that stress of I'm going to be late every single day for work. Or if you know your schedule is kind of changing here and there, maybe you work kind of a swing schedule or some days you do morning, some days you do afternoon, take the 5 to 10 minutes it might take to look at the next week or 2 weeks ahead of time and make out a plan. Maybe Monday through Thursday, I'm working a 7 to 3 shift. So I'm going to go to the gym at 4:30 every day. But then on Friday through the next Tuesday, I'm working a 3 to 11. So I'm going to try to go at 8:30 in the morning and have things planned out. And the more we plan, the more better we're prepared and the less stress we're going to be. And if it just seems like small little things here and there, they add up over time and just really really help to eliminate that overall stress.
I think it's funny, but also fitting that, we have this subject, boosting immune system, right? And we're kind of working our way down the list, and we're given these actionable things to talk about and to think about. And then at the end of the day, a lot of this conversation boils down to mindset. Like, how are you interfacing with the world? How are you making decisions? How do you, how do you talk to yourself, and what standards do you hold yourself to? It's funny how even something, that seems so unconnected, like your immune system, really boils down to your relationship with yourself and your mindset on self-discipline and those types of things. It really all is kind of foundational to that.
Definitely. I mean, like I said, if we're waking up and the first thing in the morning we're doing is, oh my God, we're late, I slept through my alarm, I'm stuck in traffic, I'm late for work, my boss is mad at me, now I got to work through lunch, and now I'm going to work late and I skipped the gym. Like, all of that is such a toll on your body. But what you're doing to yourself, where it may be easily avoidable if we just say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to bite the bullet. I'm going to wake up 30 minutes earlier, and maybe I'm going to go for a quick run, and then I'm going to go to work and avoid all that stress. And the way you talk to yourself and the way you plan and approach the day on a day-to-day basis can really have a massive effect on your mindset and your overall health.
Yeah, I think this is one of the big focal points this year, is taking care of your wellness and in turn your immune system. Again, we're all dealing with the same kind of situation right now, and we just kind of got to roll with the punches with COVID and take it as it comes. But to boil back down, the one thing you can control is your own decisions and taking care of your nutrition, your sleep, your exercise, controlling your stress levels. Those are all things that you can do that will help boost your immune system, that will give you better odds. If God forbid you do get COVID or any other ailment, right? Give yourself some of that. Coach Eric said, building yourself a set of armor. I really like that analogy. It's like you're building this armor for your body to give yourself better odds. If it comes to you being sick, or maybe you won't even get sick because you have such a strong immune system, it just bounces off of you.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Walking into war with a full suit of armor instead of walking in naked, right?
Right. Hope nobody hits me on this one. Hope they miss. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you. And again, if there's anything in specific that you would like to hear about, or certain subjects that we haven't touched on yet, always feel free to drop us a message or drop a comment, and we'll try to get into that subject as quickly as we can. Anything else, Zach or Eric?
No, I think we touched on everything we want to talk about today, but definitely send some questions along, topics you want to hear, and we'll get to them.
All right, guys. Keep that immune system up. Keep working hard. We'll see you next episode.